Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, so if I stumble over my words moving forwards, apologies about that. And also, if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well, if there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it cannot be helped, and hopefully it is not too much of an issue for you. This is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel, and a video that is very similar to the last video that I uploaded onto this channel, which you may well have seen, in which I spoke about all of the big 5 entries in the ESC since 2013, right up to Liverpool 2023, and gave each one of them a score based on where that country was in my personal ranking of the years in question. And spoiler alert, Italy came out on top, meaning pretty much that Italy is my favourite Big 5 nation since 2013, and I know a few other people left their rankings in the comments of that video as well, which was nice to see. You're very welcome to do the same again today, but instead of the Big 5 once again, what's the point of just rehashing old territory, I am going to be focusing on Scandinavia. That is Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and I am including Iceland in this as well. And once again, I'm going to go through every contest from 2013 right up to Liverpool 2023 and give each country a score out of 5 based on where they are ranked in any given year. So if Finland's top of the pile, they'll get 1 point, and if in the same year Denmark's the lowest one for me, they get 5. You see how it works. It's pretty simple stuff. As always, you're very welcome to let me know your thoughts on anything I discuss in today's video by leaving a comment. Feel free to like the video, share it, tell other people about it. It's all much appreciated. And there are links, as always, in the description to my other social media pages. Check them out if you so wish. So, enough rambling. Let's try and get through this at a pretty good pace. I have my personal rankings in front of me, and I have a spreadsheet ready to go to fill in the marks as well. 2013 then, what a great year for me personally when it comes to Scandinavia, because every single Scandinavian country is in my personal top 10 of that Malmö 2013 contest, and 1 point straight away is going to go to Denmark, the real life winner too. This is of course Emily de Forest with Only Teardrops. She's a few weeks younger than me, I believe, and I remember at the time that this was the favourite to win. I think Ukraine were coming up on the rails, but I don't think Denmark really had any other challenger coming into the Malmö contest. Emily was great. She was on stage barefoot in this sort of ragged dress. You had the guy playing the flute or whatever it was. You had a couple of guys banging drums. You had this sort of orange golden glow to proceedings, and then the confetti that rained down on people at the front of the arena. It was a really, really good performance, a really nice, folky sort of song. I don't know if it's nearly as popular now as it was back then. You could argue that it was never that popular in the first place, even though it was the winner. I just think that other winners since have definitely had a bit more staying power, if you see what I mean. And maybe Only Teardrops has been brushed aside a little bit. But I think it's still a great song. I've listened to pretty much everything Emily has done since. Of course, she co-wrote the British entry in Kyiv 2017 for Lucy Jones. I have her debut album on my shelves. Absolutely fantastic. Still follow her stuff on social media. So Denmark getting the 1 point here in 2013. Getting the 2 points is my personal runner-up, and I think the 4th placed entry from 2013. This is Norway. Margaret Berger, I Feed You My Love. This sort of ever so slightly menacing sounding track, but very modern, very slick. Margaret was there on stage, blonde hair, white dress, somebody playing the drums, and the juries like this, the public like this. It's a really, really solid effort, and Margaret has not been in MGP since. I'd like to see her come back and have another bite of the Eurovision cherry, if you see what I mean. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen, but she's getting the 2 points from me here. Getting the 3 points, Iceland, my 3rd place of 2013. This is Eyþór Ingi with Ég Leaf, I Have a Life. What a beautiful, beautiful ballad this is. There he was on stage, very smartly dressed, with the long hair. You had this sort of northern lights imagery on the backdrop. There's really not too much to say about this one. It's just a really, really gorgeous ballad performed by somebody with an absolutely smashing voice. And if I recall, I looked on his Instagram page about a month or two ago, and he doesn't seem to have aged. one bit in the past decade. He's still looking really good, and I'm sure he still has an absolutely amazing voice. This finished mid-table back in 2013, but it deserved to finish several places higher. 4 points that year goes to Sweden, my 4th place of 2013. This is, of course, the host nation's entry, You by Robin Schönberg. He came through the second chance round in Melfest and then won the whole thing. The first person ever to do that. It hasn't happened since, and of course, the format of Melfest has changed quite a bit as well over the years. This song, not one of Sweden's best, and I have to say I have gone off it quite a bit over the years, but it's still not bad. Pretty credible pop song. The staging wasn't the most memorable. He was there with a group of dancers, this little podium that they had as well. The juries loved this, public not so much, and when they smushed the results together somehow, this finished mid-table, and I don't have anything else to say about it. Pretty good song, pretty good vocalist, but not one of Sweden's best. And he's written a couple of other songs for artists in Melfest over the years. I want to say that he co-wrote Robin Bengtsson's entry in 2017, don't quote me on that. But anyway, 4 points to Sweden, meaning the 5, and I've made a mistake here, here we go, the 5 goes to Finland. But this is still a song that I really enjoy. It's my number 9 of the 2013 contest. So every Scandinavian country is in my personal top 10 of Malmö 2013. I think that's the only time all of them are in the top 10. Very impressive. This was, of course, Krista Siegfrids with Marry Me. This was expected to do very well. It really didn't. She finished right near the bottom. Don't know what happened there. Maybe the running order she was on early, maybe that played a part. She's still involved with Eurovision. I think that she was there in Rotterdam in 2020 or something, 2021 rather, doing some content for YouTube. I don't really recall. She's been in Melfest in Sweden as well since. Maybe she will try and represent Finland again at some point. I wouldn't be surprised. This is a nice pop song. It's a little bit on the silly side maybe. They had this sort of wedding theme to the performance. There was that lesbian kiss at the end. Yeah, it was a nice performance, nice song. I have nothing else to say about it, but Finland are getting the maximum 5 points here. We move on to 2014 in Copenhagen then, ladies and gentlemen. Let's crack on with this, and getting the 1 point is, again, Denmark, the host nation, finishing 8th in my personal ranking of the 2014 Grand Final. This is Basim with Cliché Love Song, and this is a sort of retro pop song, very much in the mould of Bruno Mars. He was on stage in this suit with the slack bow tie, a couple of dancers with him, one of whom was quite tall and had an afro from what I remember. Visually not the best, wasn't really much in the way of colour to this performance. You had the big banner that came down which said love towards the end of this performance as well. He sang quite well, the crowd loved it. I've always not minded this track. It gets the 1 point. 2 points goes to my number 9 of 2014, which is Finland. This is Soft Engine with Something Better. This is a sort of indie rock number. Very, very good. Don't really remember the first time I heard this, but then at Eurovision I was really on board with it. Public not quite as keen as the juries, it must be said, when you look at the split results. But a pretty solid effort nonetheless. You had all of the swirling lights streaking across the arena. That was a great moment, just the way it looked on TV, fantastic. Vocally not bad at all, and it wasn't really trying to be super fancy either. It was just quite a relaxed performance in all honesty, but it really worked. One of the best Finnish entries of the decade, no doubt about that. 2 points is what they're getting here. 3 points goes to Sweden, my number 11 of 2014. I think that's a bit high, actually. This is Undo by Sanna Nielsen, finally getting the chance to go to Eurovision after many years of entering Melfest. And this was Undo, and it's a ballad, and you had the disco ball at the top, and the lights again streaking across the arena. I have really gone off this over the years. When I originally ranked the songs for 2014, this was nowhere to be found, and then I re-ranked them a few years ago and it moved up to just outside my personal top 10. If I was to re-rank the 2014 songs again, I think this would be lower again. I don't know, I seem to have a love-hate relationship with this song. I don't think it's that amazing. I really don't. I think she's a good singer. I just wish she had a slightly better song. There's something about the chorus that irritates me. I don't know what it is. But anyway, Sweden are going to get the 3 points here. This was the runner-up. No, it wasn't. It was the third placed entry in real life in 2014. That leaves 2 more countries, and it's going to be... Who have we got left? Norway and Iceland. Yes, so Iceland's going to get the 4, my number 16 of 2014. This was Potterpunk with No Prejudice. A song that does appear very silly, but has quite a good message behind it as well. They were in colourful outfits, having a good time on stage. 2 of the backing singers, I believe both of them, politicians in Iceland, which is quite interesting. And it's very fun. Nobody really expected this to do that well, but mid-table in the final, by no means a disgrace whatsoever. If anything, punching above its weight. Not bad at all. Just harmless, joyful Eurovision fun. Which means Norway are going to get the 5. This is Carl Espen with Silent Storm, my number 23 of 2014. That MGP lineup in 2014 was not that strong. I think the broadcaster didn't have a huge budget. I don't know what they were doing, but the quality of the songs wasn't that high, and I didn't really like many of the songs on offer. This is the one that came out on top. Great singer, lovely ballad, quite dramatic, very simply executed. I don't really have anything negative to say about it whatsoever. It's just not a song that I really go back to. As a result, it gets the 5 points. We move on to 2015 in Vienna, and Norway get the 1 point here, up and down here. And of course this was Mørland and Deborah Scarlett with A Monster Like Me. Quite a dark sounding song, absolutely, lyrically very interesting. They were in white outfits from what I remember. Really nothing to the staging whatsoever. Deborah with her sort of red hair, she appeared sort of about a third of the way through. Vocally bounced off each other quite well. Public weren't that keen, juries liked it a lot more, no surprises there. I have nothing else to say about it. It is my runner-up of the 2015 contest, and this finished about 8th, I want to say, in real life. Not bad at all. 2 points goes to Sweden. This was, of course, the winner by some considerable margin. Måns Zelmerlöw with Heroes, of course, interacting with that puppet on the screen next to him. And the red flashing lights as well. That's all I really remember about this performance. Very similar to how it was executed at Melfest. He's not a bad singer. Obviously, very much involved with Eurovision. Co-hosted a year later. Might well be one of the hosts in Malmö next year. You never know. Does the commentary for SVT occasionally as well. Likeable guy. He's always at Eurovision, it seems. And this was a good winner, but there was controversy, of course, because Italy was so far ahead of him in the public half of the results, and it was the juries who essentially allowed, if that's the right term to use, Sweden to win. Where have we heard that before? Anyway, 3 points are going to go to Iceland. My number 6 of 2015, maybe a little high, quite a forgotten entry this. It is Maria Olafsdottir with Unbroken. This is a song that's very sweet. It's nothing original. Some people have compared it over the years to a Disney song. I completely agree with that, to be honest with you. It's definitely got that sort of Disney movie charm to it, I suppose. I think she was barefoot on stage, in a dress. Hera Björk, one of the backing singers. Again, a Northern Lights theme to the backdrop. I think she was very nervous on the night of the second semi-final. But I was really disappointed this didn't qualify and didn't really come close to qualifying whatsoever. Nevertheless, it's still one of my favourites of 2015. It gets 3 points. 4 points are going to go to... yes, absolutely. 4 points are going to go to Denmark. My number 12 of 2015, heavens above. I haven't looked at these rankings for a while. That's quite high. But there we are. This is Anti-Social Media with The Way You Are. A sort of British sounding, slight indie sort of tune. You'll know what I'm on about if you've heard it. Group of guys, they won DMGP quite surprisingly at the time, it has to be said, because Suitcase by Anne Gadegaard was right there. But no, this is the song that went to Vienna instead. Didn't qualify, no real shock. It's got a sort of throwback, light-hearted, sort of cheeky chap sort of vibe to it, if you see what I mean. I don't love it nearly as much as I used to. Then again, I never really loved it at the time. If I re-ranked these songs, it would be a bit lower, perhaps. It's getting the 4 points here, and without question, Getting the 5 points is Finland. This is... oh dear me. I have no issue with the band. The song just wasn't that good. It was over in a flash. I'm sure you remember it. It's Aina mun pitää by Pertti Kurkandimi Päivät, a group of male musicians, all of whom I think had learning disabilities. Fair play for them for coming out on stage and, you know, doing their thing. And this was very different from most of the songs we get at Eurovision in any given year. This was sort of heavy metal stuff. But like I said, it was over very quickly. I think it's the shortest Eurovision song we've ever had. And I just wasn't that into it. And Finland made the wrong choice. But what's done is done. I think, if I remember correctly, I don't have it in front of me, the juries didn't like this one bit. The public, I think, would have had this as a qualifier. Had it been 100% public vote, this would have been in the final. So make of that what you will. But for me, I've never loved it. It's getting the 5 points. We move on to 2016. I am aware I am rambling for the ages here. Let me take a sip of tea. Okay, here we go. 2016 in Stockholm. 1 point is going to Iceland. My number 11 of the 2016 contest, one of the most shocking NQs we've ever had. This is Greta Salome with Hear Them Calling. I think she was last on in the first semi-final, and she had that screen behind her with all of the birds flying out, bursting from her chest at one point. She's a great singer, no doubt about it. This song, I mean, at the time, it was genuinely shocking that it didn't go through, and I think all these years later, it's still quite a shocking result. It's quite powerful, stirring stuff. It's got quite a bit of momentum to it as well. I haven't listened to it in ages, but it is a pretty good song, and it gets the 1 point here. 2 points to Norway, my number 12 of 2016. This was an NQ as well in real life. It is Agneta with Icebreaker. The problem here is that this song didn't really know what it wanted to be. It was sort of 2 or 3 songs stitched together, and there wasn't really much cohesion. But Agneta is great. I think she had a lot of nerves in Stockholm at the time. I remember that she wasn't really doing a lot of press conferences and things like that, from what I remember. And I don't know, there wasn't really much momentum with this one whatsoever, even though she won MGP by quite a margin. I don't like it as much as I did at the time, but it's going to get the 2 points here. Agneta, I should say, was the lead singer of the Black Sheeps, who were the runners-up in MGP in 20... what year was it now? 2011, I think it was. Well worth checking that song out. They also won MGP Junior at one point as well. Yes, going off on a tangent, but there you go. Agneta did have history with MGP. Anyway, moving on. The 3 points are going to go to Sweden. Really? Well, what do you know? This is Franz with If I Were Sorry, and this is also a bit of a forgotten entry, especially a forgotten entry for Sweden. This was, of course, on home soil. Franz himself, a young guy. The song, super simple, very relaxed in terms of its delivery. He had the light-up screen with him as well, very casually dressed. This did quite well. I think it finished 5th. That's quite generous, to be honest with you. This is not the most memorable track, and it took me, I would say, a good few years before I really started liking it. I don't love it, but I don't mind it now. He's going to get the 3 points. 4 points goes to Finland, which is my last place of my personal final in 2016. This is Sandia with Singing Away, and I don't know, Finland, they've had some great songs in their national finals over the years, and from what I remember, I was surprised this is the one that came out on top in 2016. Oh man, what a shame. Anyway, getting the 4 points here. She opened the first semi-final. It's a sort of disco-sounding pop song. She was quite energetic, vocally maybe a little bit shaky at times. I really don't have anything else to say about it. It's getting the 4 points, which means that Denmark, for the first time here, get the 5. An NQ in real life, an NQ for me, by a narrow margin. My number 11 of semi-final 2. This is Lighthouse 10 or Lighthouse X with Soldiers of Love. Why Denmark selected this, I don't really know. 3 guys, one of whom has co-hosted DMGP over the years. This is a fairly unmemorable song. A bit cliched. I don't know. There's really little to say about this, so I think it's best we move on. Denmark not really doing the business in that particular year. We move on to 2017, ladies and gentlemen, and getting the 1 point is Sweden, my number 3 of that Kyiv contest. That's a bit generous, but there we are. I did rank these songs, and it's the first time Sweden come out on top in this little video I'm doing. This is, of course, Robin Bengtsson with I Can't Go On, except he has gone on. He's seemingly involved in Melfest every damn year. But this was the Swedish entry. He opened the first semi-final and then was near the end of the running order in the grand final that year. He was joined by a group of guys on treadmills. They were having a good time. He was in a suit. He was working the camera as best he could. Juries liked this. Public also had this in the top 10, but they didn't love it as much as the juries. My number 3 of the year. That is quite high. Might have to change that when I re-rank these songs at some point, but there we are. Getting the 1 point is Sweden for 2017. 2 points are going to go to Finland. Now here's an underrated gem. My God, my number 8 of 2017. This is Norma John with Blackbird. This very maudlin, solemn tune, male-female duo. Guy behind the piano. She was in a black dress, from what I remember. This blue watery effect on the backdrop which turned red for the final part of the song. So simple. Nothing flashy about this whatsoever. It's a very sad song. But it really stood out, and sadly the juries and indeed the public weren't quite on board with this enough. Nevertheless, 2 points here for me. 3 points go to Denmark. This would be ranked lower if I re-ranked these songs right now. Then again, I'm looking at this and I'm not sure who would be above them. Excuse me. But this is my number 10 of 2017. It's Anja Nielsen with Where I Am. She's now based in America, I believe. Still making music. Beautiful woman, blonde hair. She was there on stage in Kyiv, belting out this huge ballad. You had the falling rain pyrotechnics as well. Golden lighting from what I remember. I've really not listened to this much over the years, but it is what it is. Denmark are getting the 3 points here. She was the runner-up in DMGP the year before, if I remember correctly, with a slightly better song. Anyway, the 4 points are going to go to Norway. My number 14 of 2017. This is Joust with Grab the Moment. Nobody really expected this to do terribly well, and yet it ended up sneaking into the top 10 that year. The juries really did like this. The public, not very much at all, which is interesting. You thought it would have been the other way around. This wasn't bad. It's quite a cool entry, I suppose. It's got a good beat to it, some sophistication to it. You had the sort of, what's the best way to describe this? Robotic vocals at times in this song. You know what I'm on about if you've listened to it, of course. There was controversy because some people said they shouldn't have been allowed, but it is what it is. A sort of pink and silver colour scheme, from what I remember. Yeah, not a bad song. It gets the 4 points here, which means Iceland get the 5. Was this a personal qualifier for me? Yes. It's my number 20 of 2017. This is Svala, whose father represented Iceland in the mid-90s, and this song is Paper. She was in a white outfit. I think she was alone on stage. I think there were lasers. Don't quote me on that. It's been a long time since I listened to this and indeed watched the performance. It gets the 5 points here. Not one of Iceland's standout entries over the past decade, I think it's fair to say. We move on to 2018, and Denmark are going to get the 1 point here again, and this is Rasmussen with Higher Ground. If I re-ranked these songs now, he would be up to my number 2 of the year, absolutely. This is great. Looking like a Viking on stage, black outfits from what I remember, group of guys with him, waving flags. Can't really remember it too much, so bear with me. But this is a great song. Juries weren't that keen, but he won the public vote in semi-final too, and then I think he was 5th in the final with the public as well. Really, really impressive. They were very much on board with this. It is a great, stirring, fairly catchy song. Lovely stuff. The 2 points are going to go to... oh dear me. Finland, I think. My number 15 of 2018. This is Sar Aalto, who was on the UK version of the X Factor once upon a time, with Monsters, and Finland threw the kitchen sink at this, and I honestly believe, because the staging was a little bit on the messy side, maybe that resulted in this song's downfall, I don't know. 2018 was such a strong year, and this for whatever reason, didn't quite have the impact it should have done. Sara is a great singer. I don't think she's done a whole lot since, but don't quote me on that. It's a pop song. She gave it her all. She had dancers with her. She was upside down on that wheel at the start of this performance. And she's going to get the 2 points here from me. The 3 points are going to go to Norway, my number 18 of 2018. This was the semi-final 2 winner, and then he finished mid-table in the final. It's the returning champion himself, Alexander Rybak, with That's How You Write a Song. This was mocked at the time. I think it's still a bit mocked now. This is such a downgrade from Fairy Tale, it's unbelievable. He was sort of faux interacting with a football and a piano on stage, and he had dancers with him, and I think he was unwell the week of the contest, but he still did an alright job. He's got plenty of charisma. This is not the song Norway should have sent. They should have sent the runner-up. That's a great song. Check it out, Who We Are by Rebecca. But nevertheless, it was Alexander in Lisbon, and he's going to get the 3 points from me. The 4 points are going to go to Sweden, my number 21 of 2018. I like this more than I did at the time, but I absolutely still don't love this. And of course, this is a very famous entry because the juries adored it and the public gave this 21 points. It is Benjamin Ingrosso with Dance You Off. It's very slick. He was on this podium which lit up and it all looked very cool and quite engaging, I suppose. And I'm sure the juries looked at this and thought, oh my god, how unbelievably original. We are wetting ourselves with excitement. And so the points poured in. The public, however, just weren't that keen. 21 points, I think it was. Very, very low. But in all honesty, also not that shocking, to be honest with you. Again, not the most memorable Swedish entry of the past 10 years or so. I have nothing else to say about it. And then we have Iceland, who got a big fat 0 from the public in the first semi-final and were last overall, and Iceland is my number 17, looking at this, of my 2018 semi-final 1 ranking. It is Auri Olafsson with Our Choice. A little bit cliched. He was in this white outfit, had other singers with him on stage. Just very forgettable, very plain. It wasn't the strongest song that kept in line for that year either. And so Iceland get the maximum 5 for the second year in a row here. We move on to 2019. I'm really trying to get through this now, bear with me. 1 point goes to Norway, my number 3 of 2019. This was 6th, I think, that year. We all know it. It is Kano with Spirit in the Sky. You have the female lead singer and then the 2 guys. This is just great Eurovision stuff. Fun, vibrant, catchy, crowd loving it. Won the public vote in the final. Juries weren't very keen at all. In the end, I think it was 6th place. Really good stuff. They've been in MGP since. They're probably coming back next year. Watch this space. And yeah, Eurovision classic, no doubt about it. I think that's the best way to describe that song. We move on. Sweden, my number 4 of 2019. This is Jon Lundvik with Too Late for Love, which finished 5th, I think it was, in Tel Aviv. Jon Lundvik, of course, also wrote the British entry, co-wrote the British entry that year, which finished last, and he's been in Melfest a couple of other times as well. This is not a bad song. The Mama's on stage with him. Visually not the strongest. He had this sort of overhead lamp, nothing else really going on around him. Decent singer, good feel, good track, nothing else to add. The 3 points are going to go to Denmark, my number 9 of 2019. This is the last time Denmark were in a Eurovision final. Can you believe it? It is Leonora with Love Is Forever. Very, very cutesy. She had that massive chair on stage, a couple of other people with her too. She sang a bit of the song in French for some reason. I don't know what that was all about. Yeah, it was very much on the saccharine side. She only just qualified, but then she punched above her weight, really, in the final. Juries liked it. Public didn't mind it. People were charmed by this ditty. She gets 3 points from me. 4 points are going to go to Iceland, my number 18 of 2019. This was Hattari with Hattrith Munsigra. Can you believe it's been that long since they were on the Eurovision stage? This, of course, was very aggressive, sort of techno-sounding stuff. Very BDSM as well in terms of the getup they were wearing. You had the sort of blurry effect on screen at points as well. Yeah, it's a good song. I really Wasn't that keen the first time I heard it, but then I thought, come on now, Reese, this is obviously going to win Songförtävling, which it did, and it's obviously going to do well at Eurovision, which it did. I think this finished 10th. Obviously, the juries weren't as keen as the public, but it is what it is. I think if I re-ranked these songs now, this song would be even higher. Which means Finland get the 5 for the third time in this little ranking that I'm doing. This was Darude featuring Sebastian Raymond with... what the hell was the name of the song? Look Away. Oh my god, I haven't really listened to it at all since Eurovision. Pretty bland stuff, which is strange because it's fairly up-tempo. It's a bit of a dance song, I suppose, if you want to call it that. Not that impressive. It's my number 14 of the 2019 contest. Very bland. Didn't stand out enough. UMK was not very strong that year. We move on to 2020, the cancelled Rotterdam contest. Getting the 1 point is an absolute gem of a song. It is Attention by Ulrika. What a star she is. My winner. Would have challenged for the win had the contest gone ahead. I do hope she gets her moment on the Eurovision stage at some point. Of course, she nearly did it this year, but Alessandra put the kibosh on that. This is a wonderful, wonderful song. Just a ballad that builds up, and she nails the vocals, as she does with every song she's ever had. And it is, by some distance, my personal winner of 2020. My number 2 out of these Scandinavian countries that year is Sweden. My number 6 of 2020, getting 2 points. This is the Mamas with Move. They returned. They won by 1 point. Melfest that year. This is, again, I use the same terms, I know, but this is feel-good stuff. Great harmonies. Great to watch, even if not the most visually impressive. And it's a song that's hard to dislike, I would say. Really lovely stuff. And of course, they did try again a year afterwards and didn't win. Then we have Denmark, my number 9 of 2020. This is Ben and Tan with Yes. I think we remember the performance at DMGP in Copenhagen in front of nobody because there was no crowd. And this, of course, was at the time when the pandemic was really starting to become a problem. They released a follow-up single, which I think was rejected for DMGP a year later, which is absolutely outrageous. He has written 1 or 2 other songs for national finals and internal selections. Don't quote me on that. I'd like to see them team up again. I need to see what she's doing now, because this is a really nice song. Again, Denmark going down the safe but charming route. And to be honest, Denmark are champions at this. And if they do it next year, then they could be onto something really special once again. This would have done all right had the 2020 contest taken place. Very catchy stuff. Then we have Iceland, my number 14 of 2020. This was... I have absolutely no idea. It was, well, of course. It was Think About Things by Dardi and Gagner Magnith, the song that went viral. Everybody started loving this. It was a bit of a slow burn sort of song, but definitely here in the UK after a while, people were talking about it. I think they were dancing to it on Strictly Come Dancing, which is quite remarkable. Of course, Daddy Frere is such a star. He really is. These Eurovision covers he's done as well, some of which are online, absolutely fantastic. He was there in Liverpool as well earlier this year. He's great. His troupe, great as well. Music video, very quirky. And that's the best way to describe this song. It is a quirky track, but people just fell in love with it. And he probably would have won the 2020 contest had it gone ahead, which means the 5 points goes to Finland. Again, my number 24 of 2020. This was Axel with Looking Back. Not the strongest track. A lot of people were miffed because Erika Wickman, was that the year she was involved? She was right there. Anyway, Axel came out on top. This is a very gentle, quite lovely, soothing sort of tune. Nice guy, nice voice, all right song, nothing else to add. We move on to 2021. We're nearly there. 1 point goes to Finland. They're on top for the first time. My number 7 of 2021. This was Blind Channel with Dark Side. Quite a heavy sounding rock number. I suppose quite grim, you could say, in terms of the lyrical content. But a good effort, no doubt about it, and Finland's best result for a long time. Then, well, at the time, their best result for a long time. Then we have Denmark, my number 11 of 2021. This was Fyr og Flammer with Over os på hinanden, this sort of throwback 80s sounding effort in Danish. The two guys, this sort of very Tron-like pattern on the backdrop. Really fun. And again, Denmark playing it somewhat safe but charming, and it didn't quite work because the juries hated it. The public had this as a qualifier, the juries said, stuff that, we think it's shite. So Denmark didn't go through, which is a real shame, and they haven't been in a final for a long time now, but it's a good song, and it's very catchy, and we move on. 3 points are going to go to Iceland, my number 14 of 2021. This is, of course, 10 Things. Is that the name of the song? I can't even remember. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. And this is, of course, Dardi and Gagna Mathnith, who weren't performing live because one member of the group, I think it was, had the virus. What a shame. But they still did really well, finished 4th in real life. Very colourful, again, very quirky, very catchy. And, yeah, like I already said, Dardi Freyr is such a talent. And I think having him involved with Eurovision moving forwards for Iceland would be a smart move. 4 points are going to go to Sweden, my number 15 of 2021. Little bit generous, maybe. This is Tusse with Voices. He won Melfest by an absolutely huge margin. And then at Eurovision, everybody sort of forgot about this song. It was very simply staged. I think he was in this sort of red velvet type suit. Not a bad singer, not a bad song, but definitely not one of Sweden's best. Very forgettable. Which means that Norway are going to get the 5. And this is my number 19 of 2021. It is Tix with Fallen Angel. I actually listened to this song fairly recently. It's not bad, but there's something about it that just comes across as very cheesy. He had the angel wings on his back, and the chains, and dancers with him. Can't quite remember. Yeah, it's not bad. But again, looking at the other songs that year, this one doesn't really stand out from the field at all, in my humble opinion. We move on to 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Sweden are going to get the 1 point. Cornelia Jacobs with Hold Me Closer. Brilliant stuff. Very tender, very touching, quite emotionally charged. She was sitting on the stage floor in Turin, and she had that rotating disc with her as well. This is great. I have nothing more to add. It is my clear winner. 1 point goes to Sweden. 2 points go to Finland, my number 6 of 2022. This was the Rasmus with Jezebel. This is a great song. Great song. A lot of people weren't so keen. I think a lot of people, from what I remember, said the Rasmus only won because, you know, of the history and that there's such a big band in Finland. Maybe. I don't like this song quite as much as I did at the time. They went for this sort of yellow colour scheme. The lead singer, Lauri, whipping his coat off partway through this performance. It's good stuff, but I haven't listened to it for a while. But nevertheless, it gets the 2 points here. 3 points to Denmark, my number 7 of the Turin contest. This is Ready with the Show, all-girl group. The drummer was the same drummer that was on stage with Soluna Samay in 2012, and she's part of another group that I can't remember the name of. This is a great song. Takes a while to get going, but then we're really cooking. Very colourful. Little bit repetitive, but really nice. Very underrated if you ask me. Not a song that a lot of people really talk about these days, and I don't think anybody's really going to gravitate towards it anytime soon. They did have a follow-up single, but I don't think they're making music anymore. I think it's a short-lived band, to say the least. But nevertheless, 3 points go to Ready. 4 points go to Norway, it looks like. Yes, Norway are going to get the 4. And this is Subwoofer with Give That Wolf a Banana. I completely dismissed this the first time I heard it. I thought it was just an absolute joke. But then I gave it a chance, and to no surprise, I did start liking it a bit more. Obviously, we know who the two guys are now, and it was a pretty good performance. Obviously, the dance moves, the novelty of it, people were interested in the novelty of it, and they kept up the act for quite a while. Juries weren't quite as keen as the public. I expected the public mark to be higher than it was. It is what it is. They get the 4 points, which means Iceland get the 5. This was Sister with Met Haikandi Sol. And this is a very low-key, folky sort of track. Very nice. Nothing to comment, really, regarding the staging. I move on because I'm starting to ramble. Iceland getting the 5 points there, and that is my number 19 of Turin, and surprisingly qualified, you could say, last year, and then finished right near the bottom in the final. Then we have this year, we finally made it to Liverpool. Finland, my winner, very comfortably, getting the 1 point. This is Cha 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 by Karja, with the green bolero sleeves, and the dancers in the pink outfits, and the massive crate that he had on stage, and the energy, and the rainbow lights. What more can you say? He gets the 1 point. Norway get the 2 points, my runner-up. This was 5th in real life, I think it was. Alessandra with Queen of Kings, she's released a follow-up single. She's going to be releasing another one soon. She's on tour at some point. Tried to get tickets to see her. That didn't really happen. She's great, quite active on social media. Great song in that sort of green warrior-type outfit, and then strutting her stuff in the final chorus. And some people have said her vocals weren't the best. It didn't really matter because she did really well with the public, not so well with the juries, but still a pretty decent result for Norway overall. Then we have Sweden, my number 4 this year, and of course the real-life winner. This is Loreen with Tattoo. What more can you really say about this? Obviously, she went big for it. She was on that block, and it's a song that builds up, and then it's got this really emphatic finale, and she won by a mile in the end, really. The juries absolutely fell over themselves with excitement when they heard this. The public did have this in second place, which is still really good, but well behind Finland, hence all of the controversy. We move on. 4 points are going to go to Iceland, my number 6 of 2023, and this is Diljá with Power. Didn't qualify from semi-final 2, but she was in 11th place. There wasn't really a whole lot to the staging, but she was quite energetic, and she was wearing this white coat, I think it was, that she threw off towards the end. Absolutely brilliant vocals, really looking forward to see what she does next. We move on to Denmark, who get the 5, and that is... who the hell represented Denmark this year? Who the hell represented Denmark this year? My memory is absolutely shot to pieces, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't qualify. I can't even remember. That is shocking, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to have to... Hang on, I can just load it up here, can't I? What is going on? Riley. My God, I'm so sorry. Riley with Breaking My Heart. He opened semi-final 2. He was in this sort of light pink outfit, green colour scheme for most of the performance. Vocally not strong enough at DMGP, vocally not strong enough in the pre-parties that I saw him at, vocally not strong enough at Eurovision, not horrendous, but just not strong enough, and I thought he was going to get a lot of love on social media, which he sort of did, but it didn't translate into votes. In the end, I think the only country that gave him anything was Iceland. Really poor result for Denmark, but not a bad song, quite cutesy, very sort of pandering to a social media crowd, I guess. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. We've done it. So now it's time to work out the scores. Hallelujah. Let me know what your ranking is as well. I apologise for the messiness of this video. Norway came out on top a couple of times and last twice and finished with 30 points. Finland, last a couple of times, on top twice. 34 points. Really? Wow, that's quite close. Sweden, on top a couple of times, never last, 29 points. Denmark, on top several times, last twice, 31 points. This is really close. And Iceland, on top just the once, last a couple of times, 41 points. I can't quite believe that. Maybe if I was doing the past 20 years, it would be a different story. But there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's quite close. Quite different from the last video I filmed when I spoke about the big 5 countries. But there we have it. Sweden win with 29 points. Norway are second on 30. Denmark are third on 31. Finland are fourth on 34. And Iceland are fifth and last with 41. Wow. That surprises me because I usually love Iceland at Eurovision. But there you have it. Sweden come out on top by 1 point ahead of Norway, and Norway are 1 point ahead of Denmark. How about that? Let me know your ranking. That would be nice to see. As I said at the start of this video, feel free to check out my other social media pages, links in the description. Until next time, I'm going to finish this blasted tea, which is getting cold. What a surprise. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and bye for now.